In the grand halls of Zareth Prime's Royal Academy, laughter echoed. Humans. Again. A professor chuckled, tossing an old data scroll onto the table. The students joined in. They were just bedtime stories. One said, Earth warriors, silent fleets, galaxy saviors, all fake. A historian named Vila sat quietly in the back of the room. His sharp green eyes didn't laugh. They scanned the scroll. Something in that old language called to him. Later that night, Vila crept into the forbidden wing of the Academy library. Dust floated like mist. Light flickered. Silence pressed against his ears. He found it hidden under rotting scrolls. An old codex sealed in an iron case. The Earthborn Prophecy. His hands trembled as he opened it. When the stars forget Earth's name, it read, they will return, not with words, but with fire. And silence will scream louder than war. Villa's heart pounded. Could it be true? He downloaded the codex onto his personal orb and rushed home. He didn't notice the figure watching from the shadows. Far above, Zareth Prime, in the black silence of space, a ripple formed. It was invisible at first. Then the stars around it twisted, bent and vanished. A massive wormhole tore open. It was wide enough to swallow a planet. From its dark mouth, ships emerged, one by one, slow and silent. No signals, no ID codes, just silent Zareths. Early warning system blared. Military commands scrambled fighters. The Emperor was awakened in the middle of the night. What are they? He growled. No known registry. Not Varkian. Not Drek. Unknown origin. Just black ships, sir. They're positioning above our orbit. Another officer said. No response to hails. Fire a warning shot. They did. Nothing happened. Then, one of the black ships moved fast. In a blink. It appeared beside the Zareth destroyer, a white flash. The destroyer vanished. No sound, no wreckage. Gone. Not panic, spread across the palace command. They didn't fire a weapon. One general said. They erased us, whispered another. The Zareth Emperor clenched his fists. Find out who they are. Back in his home, Vila stared at the prophecy. The text glowed with one word, pulsing softly. Awakened. He turned on the news. The screen showed a live feed from the orbital cam. Black ships. Dozens. Silent. Still. Unmoving. One transmission broke the silence. It came through every screen, every device, every channel across the galaxy. A voice comm. Human. Deep. We are the children of Earth, and we remember everything. The feed cut. No one spoke for several minutes. Vila sat frozen. The codex still open on his lap. He whispered, It's true. On the Zareth Council floor, senators shouted, Impossible. Where is Earth? They were wiped out during the Orion Wars. One scientist stood trembling. No, we wiped the records. We didn't win that war. They disappeared. Another senator slammed his fist. They're bluffing. It's just tech scavengers using ancient Earth stories. But deep down, everyone knew. Only humans fought in silence. Only humans erased fleets without weapons. Only humans returned after centuries like ghosts from the void. One by one, galactic governments went silent. Civilian ships stopped traveling. Merchant routes froze. The Zareth Emperor ordered a full fleet to confront the intruders. Show them we are not afraid. The fleet rose to orbit. Vela sat watching the CODX. It had changed again. They will not speak. They will not ask. They will only arrive. The galaxy will be judged in silence. Suddenly, the human ships moved, but not forward. They expanded, spreading out in perfect formation. A Neticage Vila's screen flickered. A message appeared. Your history books lied. We did not forget. You erased us. Now we return not for revenge, but for remembrance. Vila's hands shook. He knew the truth. Long ago, humanity had united the stars, brought peace, balance, strength. Then the Zareth and other empires turned. They feared Earth's power, so they turned the galaxy against them, destroyed records, labeled them myths, banished their name. But Earth didn't die. It waited, prepared, and now they were back. In space. The Zareth fleet opened fire. The black ships didn't move. The attacks vanished into a strange barrier like water, swallowing fire. Then the humans replied. No missiles, no lasers, just a light. It blinked, and the Zareth fleet disappeared, not destroyed. Gone. The palace trembled. The Emperor stared in horror. What are they? No one answered. The human voice returned. We offer peace, but first, truth. On every screen, scenes appeared, old footage, Earth cities, battles, Zareth, ships attacking, Earth betrayal, BACKSTAB, BING, silencing, and finally, going silent, one last message from a human general long ago. We go quiet now. But when the stars forget who we were, we will remind them. The feed ended. Vila looked up, tears in his eyes. We were wrong, he said. The Emperor called for weapons, fight to the last. But his commands went unanswered. His generals refused. They had seen the truth. Humanity wasn't a myth, it was a mirror, a judgment, and it had returned, above Zareth Prime. The black ships remained silent, still, watching, waiting, not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as reminders. A single message burned into every planet's sky. Remember Earth. And with that, the ships vanished, just like they came. No war, no fire. Just fear and silence. Vila closed the codex and whispered, they came not to destroy, but to make us remember. He stepped outside and looked up at the stars. Now no one laughed, and no one would ever forget Earth again. Zareth Prime stood still. No one moved, no ships launched. The streets were quiet, the sky filled with fear. Above, the Black Fleet floated like statues of death, silent and watching. For 3 days, they didn't move, they didn't fire, they just waited. And the galaxy held its breath. Inside the Zareth Palace, Emperor Kale paced across the Grand Hall. Why do they not attack? He growled. General Threx, cold and sharp, answered carefully. They want us to panic, to show fear. They've already shown power, whispered Vila, the historian. Kale turned to him. You again, scholar of ghost stories. Vila held up the ancient codex. They came because we buried the truth. They came because they are monsters. Kale snapped. No, Vila said softly. They came because they are human. Outside the palace, families watched the sky. Children stopped playing. Merchants shut their stalls. Air traffic froze. The great cities of Zareth had become silent graves beneath a black ceiling. Only the glowing lights of the human fleet blinked in rhythm, pulsing like a heartbeat. On the third night, something changed. A small ship separated from the fleet. It was sleek, sharp, and dark as obsidian. It moved slowly toward Zareth's orbit. Contact it. Kale ordered. Communications officers tried every frequency. No response. The ship moved closer. Then it stopped above the capital city. Shields up, Threx said. Prepare surface cannons. But the ship didn't attack. Instead, it opened. A beam of white light shined down into the city. Essa Central Plasonar. Single figure descended, calm and slow. No weapons. No armor. Human. He wore black robes with silver lines and carried nothing but a glowing sphere in his hand. The crowd stared in silence. The man landed on the marble tiles. His voice echoed through the plaza without speakers. My name is Alia. I am a messenger of Earth. Soldiers surrounded him. He did not move. Vila stood at the edge of the crowd, breath caught in his throat. This was real. The legends were alive. Kale watched from the palace balcony. Bring him in. The guards hesitated. Now, he shouted. The soldiers approached carefully, but Alia raised a hand. I will come. You do not need chains. He walked between them, fearless. Inside the throne room, Kale sat tall. Alia stopped several feet away. Kale stood. You arrive uninvited. You silence our fleets. You send ghost ships above our cities. What do you want? Alia looked into his eyes. We want nothing. Kale blinked. Then why are you here? Because you forgot. We are here to help you remember. Kale laughed bitterly. You threaten us, and call it remembrance. We do not threaten, Alia said. You feared our silence more than our words. That is your answer. Kale stepped down from his throne. You were supposed to be dead. Your species gone. You tried to erase us, but you cannot erase truth. General Threx stepped forward. You expect us to believe you come in peace, after destroying our ships, after surrounding our planet? Aloy nodded. Double quotes. Yes, because we never fired a single weapon. Threx clenched his fists. Kale narrowed his eyes. What happens if we refuse your message? Eliar's voice was quiet but firm. Then you choose ignorance, and the galaxy will watch your fall, not by our hand, but your own. Kale turned away. I don't believe in myths. Aluar turned too. Belief is not required, only memory. Then he held up the glowing sphere. It pulsed once. The room vanished. In its place stars, worlds, history, Everyone saw it. The truth, the betrayal of Earth, the lies told by the great empires, the burning of human archives, the silencing of their legacy. The years of exile. The years of preparation. The oath of return. And finally, now. The light faded. Everyone stood frozen. Vila was crying. Even Threx looked pale. Alia lowered the sphere. We do not come to rule, we come to reveal. Kale said nothing. His hands trembled. The guards moved aside. Vila stepped forward. He spoke softly. Why now? Alia looked at him. Because the stars forgot, and you started laughing again. Kale turned to Threx. Ready the orbital defenses. Threx looked torn. My emperor, do it. But the ground trembled. Outside the sky darkened further. The black ships moved. Just a little. They shifted, aligning into a perfect circle around the planet. A giant symbol appeared, burning like a rune. Velar gasped. It's the seal of Earthborn Command. Kale shouted, fire, but nothing worked. The defenses shut down, screens died, power faded. A blackout, across Zereth Prime. All systems failed. The sky blinked red. A final message appeared. You feared our silence. Now listen. And then, a sound played across the galaxy. Not music, not words, but a heartbeat, deep, slow, steady, the heartbeat of Earth. It echoed through space, through minds, through memories. Fleur dropped to his knees. Kale backed into his throne. Shaking, Alia walked toward the doors. No one stopped him as he stepped into the night. He said only one thing. We will speak again, when you're ready to listen. He rose back into the beam of light and vanished. The fleet above remained, watching, silent, and, below, the galaxy was no longer laughing, it was remembering. The sky above Zereth Prime remained dark. The human fleet still floated in silence, their black ships casting long shadows over the city below. 3 days had passed since Alia, the human messenger, vanished into the light, and nothing had moved since, but the fear had grown louder. Inside the Zareth Palace, Emperor Kale sat alone in his war chamber. He stared at a hologram of the Earthborn fleet. Not a single ship had changed position, not a single message had come, only silence, endless, powerful silence. General Threx entered the room. Still no change. My emperor. Kale didn't look at him. They're watching us. Threx hesitated. Yes, or, waiting. Kale turned sharply. For what? Threx didn't answer. Kale stood and walked toward the window. The black ships covered the sky like a net. Launch. Our long-range scouts, Kale ordered. Test their borders. Threx blinked. That could provoke them. Kale growled. They came here without warning. They embarrassed our empire. They humiliated me. We must show strength. Threx hesitated. Again. Then nodded. Double quotes. Yes, Emperor. 2 hours later, a small scout ship launched from Zareth Prime. It flew slowly, heading toward the outer rim of the fleet formation. The world watched live from every screen. People gathered in homes, bars, streets, and temples. Velar, the historian, stood among them in the plaza, watching in silence. The scout ship approached one of the human vessels. It sent out a greeting signal. No reply. It moved closer at a few hundred meters. Now then, the human ship opened, but there was no weapon, no beam, no light. Instead, the scout ship began to shake. Alarms blared inside the vessel. Systems failed. The crew screamed. Then the signal went dark. The ship vanished. No explosion, no trace, just silence. Again, Vela whispered. They erased it. In the palace, Kale slammed his fists onto the table. What are they using? Threx responded, pale. There was no weapon signature, no energy spike. It's like they tore it from existence. Kale roared. Then they're invaders. Attack them now. Vila was summoned. He stood in front of the throne, calm but firm. My emperor, please listen. This is not war. This is memory. Kale glared. They destroyed our ships. They erased a probe that trespassed. They warned us, Vila said. And you refused to hear it. Kale turned away. They will regret this. Ready the planetary cannons. Emperor Threx began. Hours passed. The skies buzzed with energy as the surface-to-orbit cannons charged. Thousands of soldiers lined the streets. Citizens were evacuated underground. And still, the human fleet didn't move. The cannons pointed toward the lead ship, the one that Alia had come from. Kale stood on the balcony of his palace, staring at the black shape in the sky. He raised his hand. Fire. The ground shook. Red beams shot upward, screaming into the darkness. They hit the human ship directly. A blast of light filled the sky. Smoke spread. Silence followed. Kale smiled, but when the smoke cleared, the ship still stood, untouched. Not a scratch. Then the ship turned. Just slightly. Facing the palace, Kale's smile vanished suddenly. The skies above every city across Zereth Prime shifted. The human ships rotated in perfect synchronization. They aligned into a shape, a giant circle. Then, the lights on their hulls began to pulse. One by one. VELAR stared from the plaza. It's a signal. People gathered, watching with fear and wonder. Suddenly, beams of light shot down into the ground from each ship. Not as weapons, but as images. Holograms appeared in every capital, square, and whole. They showed memories. History. Truth. Ancient. Battles. Betrayal. The destruction of Earth's moon by the Zareth Coalition. The silencing of the Earthborn Treaty. The mass burial of Earth's heroes. Heroes erased from every book, every network, every archive. Now, revealed. The people saw and they wept. They knelt. They whispered apologies. For the first time in 1,000 years, the truth was louder than the Empire. Inside the palace, Kale shouted, "Shut it off. It's not from our systems," cried his technicians. VELAR turned to Threx. "The people now remember. You can't bury this again." Kale drew a ceremonial blade from the wall. "I will destroy you myself if I must." Vila didn't flinch. "I'm not your enemy. You're siding with them. I'm siding with truth." Threx took a step between them and said nothing. The room filled with a strange sound. Not music, not words, but something ancient. A human voice, soft and calm. It played across every screen again. "We are not your enemy. We do not seek war, but we will not be erased again." The voice paused. "You feared our silence, because silence is the sound of truth waiting to speak." The lights faded. The ships stopped glowing, and again were still. Kale fell into his throne, defeated, exhausted, alone. VELAR stepped back toward the balcony. He looked at the ships, the stars behind them, and the future ahead. He whispered to the sky, "What happens now?" No voice answered. Only silence, but this time it felt different. Not empty, not dark, but full of power. The humans were waiting, watching, and remembering now. It was the galaxy's turn to do the same. For the first time in over 500 years, Zereth Prime was silent at sunrise. No ships moved, no leaders spoke, no music played in the cities. Only the Black Fleet hovered above, watching, waiting. The people whispered in fear, not because the humans were attacking, but because they weren't. Inside the Zereth Palace, Emperor Kale sat in a dark chamber. His advisors were gone. His generals stood in silence. Only Vila, the historian, remained bold enough to speak. "You've already lost," Vila said calmly. Kale didn't look up. "There hasn't been a battle." Vila nodded. "Because you never understood what kind of war this is." Kale finally raised his eyes. His face was pale. His voice was soft. "Then, what kind is it?" Vila stepped closer. "It's a war of memory." Kale leaned back. "A war of ghosts." Vila whispered, "Ghosts don't block out suns." Outside, in orbit, the human fleet began to move. For the first time since they arrived, they shifted formation. Long black vessels realigned into sharp arrowheads. Then, without warning, 6 of them broke off. They headed toward Zareth's outer defense grid. The military center received the alert. Sirens screamed. Threx, now in command, after most advisors fled, activated all planetary shields. "Get fighters in the air. Do not fire unless they do." But deep down, Threx knew something the others didn't. Weapons wouldn't matter. The 6 human ships arrived at the defense grid. Cannons pointed up. Missiles locked on. The grid commander trembled at his console. "They're not firing. What are they doing?" Then it began. A soft vibration. Then silence. Complete silence. The grid systems failed. The lights went dark. No blasts, no explosions. But every weapon on the defense platform shut down instantly. All across the outer system, orbital defenses powered off. Motherships floated dead in space. Communication towers fell silent. The entire Zereth military was blind and still. Not a single human shot was fired. On the palace balcony, Kale watched in horror. "They're disabling us." Vila stood beside him. "They're not here to destroy you. They're here to show you what they could do. Kale clenched the railing. They want me to beg? No, Villa said softly. They want you to remember. Kale turned away. Below the palace, thousands of people flooded the streets. They carried candles, old flags. Some held up images drawn from the human. Memories shone in the light. They were mourning Earth. Villa stepped onto the royal steps. The people saw him. They began to chant, "Truth, truth, truth." Kale closed the windows. Inside the command room, Threx paced. His officers watched screens go black. "Are we under attack?" one asked. "No," Threx said. "We're under judgment." Suddenly, one ship from the fleet descended lower than the rest. It hovered just above Zareth Prime's old war museum. A soft beam of white energy scanned the building. Moments later, the museum vanished, not destroyed, vanished. In its place, a single monument appeared. Black metal, a human figure standing tall, head lifted. Beneath it, 3 words in every galactic language: "We forgive. Remember us." The crowd fell silent. Some wept. Some dropped to their knees. In the palace, Kale stared at the broadcast. "What do they want from me?" he whispered. "VELA are answered. They want your voice." Threx entered the chamber. "Emperor, the people are demanding answers. Entire colonies are lowering their flags. Some are swearing loyalty to Earth." Kale's voice cracked. "What do I say to them?" Villa stepped forward. "Tell them the truth." Kale laughed bitterly. "The truth is poison. It will kill everything I built." Villa answered. "Then maybe it was never strong to begin with." Kale didn't respond. He just looked up. The human ships pulsed again. Another message appeared. It played through every screen. A woman's voice this time. Human calm. "We do not seek vengeance, but the galaxy must choose. Continue on the path of silence and fear, or remember what we built together before the betrayal. We offer one final chance. Rewrite your history. Admit your lies. Join us or remain alone in the cold." The message faded, and the fleet stopped moving. Threx stared at the dark screen. "They're giving us a choice." Kale sat down slowly. For the first time, he looked like a man, not an emperor. He looked tired, broken, afraid, VELAR. Looked out the window. "Make the right one." Kale stood. "I need time. You may not have much." Across the city, people held silent vigils beneath the glowing statue. A group of children placed candles at its base. They didn't fear the ships. They feared being forgotten. Later that night, Threx called Villa to the command room. "There's unrest spreading across the colonies," he said. "Some want peace, others want war, and a few are preparing to defect." Villa nodded. "The humans won't fire first, but they'll respond." "And Kale?" Threx asked. Villa took a deep breath. "He still believes surrender is weakness." Threx looked at the silent fleet. "It's not surrender, it's memory." As dawn broke again, something new appeared. From deep space, more human ships arrived. Massive carriers, larger than cities. They formed a second line behind the first. The stars disappeared. Behind them, the message was clear. This was just the beginning. The galaxy could no longer look away. Zareth Prime no longer felt like the center of the galaxy. Above, 2 full rings of human warships blocked out the stars. Their black metal hulls shimmered softly under the system's blue sun. Below, people no longer walked with pride. They walked with caution. With guilt, with awe. It was the 5th day of silence. The Empire's leaders waited for a demand, a threat, an ultimatum, but nothing came. Only the quiet sound of orbiting giants inside the palace. Kale stared at the ceiling. He hadn't slept in days. Messages from colonies poured in. Some loyal, some questioning, some leaving general. Threx stood nearby. "We are breaking apart," he said quietly. Kale didn't respond. Then the skies changed. Every screen across the planet turned black. A soft white circle appeared at the center. It pulsed once, twice, then a face appeared. A human woman, older, dark eyes, silver hair. She wore no crown, no uniform, only a simple black robe with a glowing crest on her chest. 3 circles linked together, the symbol of Earthborn unity. Her voice was calm, clear. "I am Adira Lorne. I speak for Earth." People stopped in the streets. Ships paused mid-flight. The entire planet listened. "You forgot us. You erased our stories. You taught your children that we were myths." Her eyes didn't blink. "But we remember everything." She raised her hands slowly. A series of images appeared beside her. Old footage, ancient battles, Zareth warships attacking Earth's moon, Earth cities burning, alliances breaking, and then darkness. You betrayed us. And when we chose silence, you took it as weakness. Kale watched from his throne. He said nothing, but we did not go silent to hide. We went silent to prepare. Adira stepped aside. More images appeared. Massive human fleets training on hidden moons, Earthborn colonies growing in secret, all species who remained loyal to humanity, thriving. We waited for the right time. And now we offer you a choice. Her voice grew stronger. Rewrite the truth, restore Earth's name, or be left behind in the cold. The screen faded to black. New music, new odor, just silence. Then the sky pulsed again. This time, a message in every language appeared on every screen. You have 7 days. In the palace, the room was frozen. Kale stood slowly. His voice was dry. So, it begins. Vila entered quietly. She didn't threaten us. Kale looked at him. She didn't have to. Vila stepped closer. She offered peace. Kale walked past him. To accept peace means admitting we were wrong. Threx added, or we face something far worse. Outside, people held candles. Again, some prayed, some cried, some began repainting the walls. The symbols of Earth returned to public places. A few old veterans, those who had seen the real Earth during their youth, began to speak, and those words spread like fire. That night, an emergency meeting was called. Leaders from nearby colonies were brought in, some by force, some by choice. They gathered in the great hall of flame. Kale stood before them. The humans want submission, he said loudly. Whispers filled the room. Threx interrupted. No, they want acknowledgement. Kale frowned. They've made us kneel with silence. Imagine what they'll do with words. Vila stood. We've rewritten history for 5 centuries. Perhaps it's time we tell the truth. A governor from Lyris Prime spoke. My people already switched to Earth's symbol. They broadcast their apology last night. Another from the outer system added, 2 of our moons lit up their skies with the phrase we remember. Kale shouted, and you call this strength? Silence fell. Then Vila said gently, yes, because truth is the strongest thing left. Kale's fists tightened. You're all cowards. The Lyrist governor shook his head. We just stopped pretending. Kale stormed out of the hall. Threx turned to the rest. We have 6 days left. Vila looked toward the sky, enough to change a galaxy across Zareth Prime. Transformation began. Monuments once dedicated to false victories were covered. Public screens replayed Earth's message. Schools reopened old files once marked forbidden. History classes started with one question. Who were the humans? People started wearing white, the color of peace, the color of apology. In every temple, a new prayer was added. Let the stars remember. At night, the human fleet dimmed its lights, a sign of respect. Adira's voice returned once more, shorter, simpler. Double quotes. You are not our enemy. You are our reminder. In the palace, Kale sat alone in the dark. He looked at his hands. Then, at the city below, the light from the human statue shined into his chamber. He whispered, is this what defeat looks like? But no voice answered, only the silence of truth. And above, the ships waited, peaceful, powerful, present. The 6th day began with fire. Despite the peaceful silence from the human fleet, Emperor Kale made his choice. He would not bow. He would not rewrite history. He would not remember. Instead, he would fight inside the war chamber. His voice echoed. Launch all fleets. Attack every human ship in orbit. Threx stepped forward. You still have a choice, my emperor. Kale's eyes burned. There is no choice. I will not let Earth rewrite our past. He turned to his generals. Crush them. Hundreds of warships lifted from Zareth Prime. Old cruisers. Fast strikers. Orbital platforms. All aimed at the black ships above. Across the Empire, loyal colonies followed the order. Weapons were charged. Fighter jets armed. War had begun. Vila watched. From the palace tower, his heart was heavy. They warned us, he whispered, in orbit. The human ships remained still. Not a single move. Not a single shot. As the Zareth fleet approached, the skies glowed red. Thousands of missiles launched. Lasers tore through the clouds. Explosions thundered across the upper atmosphere. Civilians ran to shelters. Soldiers cheered. Kale smiled for the first time in days, but the smile didn't last. As the smoke cleared, the truth was revealed. Every missile had vanished before impact. Every blast had been absorbed by invisible barriers, and the human fleet, untouched. Still watching, one Zareth captain shouted into his comlink. "They're using some kind of field. It's neutralizing our fire." Another ship commander screamed. "We're targeting manually." Still nothing. The black ships moved, not fast, not aggressive, just forward. Their lights pulsed, soft, slow. Then it happened. In one instant, 20 Zareth cruisers vanished. No debris, no heat signature, just gone. Other ships lost control. Engines failed. Weapons froze. Pilots screamed. A voice came through every system. It wasn't loud, it wasn't angry, it was human. "You chose war. Now you will understand why we stayed silent." Kale stood frozen. He watched as his fleet was erased without a single explosion. Threx whispered, "This is not war. This is a demonstration." Villa stepped beside him. "They're showing us mercy." Kale turned slowly. "Mercy? They could have destroyed the planet," Villa said. "But they didn't." More human ships descended. They passed above cities, not firing, not attacking, just showing presence, like judges walking through ruins. One black vessel hovered over Zareth's naval command center. A beam of light fell. Adira Lorne appeared again, this time, not on screens. In person. She stepped onto the command deck, surrounded by stunned officers. Threx was already there. He lowered his weapon. Adira looked at him. "I gave your leader a choice." Threx nodded. "He made the wrong one." She nodded once. "No more warnings." Kale burst into the room with guards. "Surrender, now, or I will." Adira turned. Her voice was colder than before. "You will do nothing." Kale raised his hand. Guards, they didn't move. Not out of fear, but shame. Adira stepped forward. "Your empire has already fallen." Kale stepped back. "I still rule." "No," she said. "You ruled a lie." She lifted her hand. A small device lit up. It projected a map of the galaxy. Red lights blinked. Dozens. Hundreds. Rex single quotes. His eyes widened. They single quotes re. Gone. Adira looked at him. "Your outer colonies have joined us. Your military planets have deactivated their weapons. Your systems now follow Earthborn law." Kale fell to his knees. "You tricked us," Adira whispered. "No, we told the truth. You just refused to hear it." Vila stepped beside her. He looked at Kale. "You feared silence, but silence was Earth's gift." Adira turned to Vila. "You remembered?" He nodded. "I never forgot." The lights around them pulsed. One final message was broadcast to the galaxy. "The war is over. Earth has returned not as conquerors, but as reminders. We do not seek revenge, we seek memory." Across Zareth Prime, people poured into the streets, not to celebrate, but to rebuild. To reflect, to finally see. The human fleet stopped its advance. No cities were taken, no leaders imprisoned. Instead, messages were left behind, on buildings. On screens, on walls. "Remember Earth." Kale was removed from power. No trial, no punishment. He was simply forgotten, just as he had tried to do with Earth. Villa was chosen to lead the new transition. Threx became head of the Unity Guard, and Adira left without another word. Her fleet followed, but they didn't disappear. They watched from the stars, guardians of history, reminders of truth, not with weapons, but with silence. And through that silence, the galaxy began to heal. The Zareth Empire had fallen, not by bombs. Not by invasion, but by truth. Across the stars, the fall echoed like a bell struck in deep space. Every system heard it. Every race paused, and many began to ask, what else had they been told that wasn't true? In the cold black orbit of the Vothar Dominion, the Supreme Circle watched the footage of Adira's speech again. Their leader, Vizari Prime, narrowed his yellow eyes. "They didn't destroy Zareth," he said. A second elder replied, "They didn't have to." The room fell quiet. Then the youngest among them spoke. "I was taught that humans were chaos. I was taught," Vizari said, "that humans were gone. They were everywhere." Messages from Earth appeared on Vothar public channels. Old Earth music began to play in deep space trading posts. Even their children, curious and wide-eyed, asked to learn Earth languages. The older Vothar did not like this. They feared what remembering might bring. But the younger ones, they welcomed it. One Vothar trader whispered to another, "If Earth forgave Zareth, maybe they'll forgive us too." In the Outer Rim, the Doran clans gathered under their flame banners. Their warriors had once fought beside human legions. They had been silenced. To dot erased. Now they stood proud again. Doran High Warlord Korvik raised his warblade toward the sky. We march not for conquest, he roared, but for memory. His fleet reactivated all Earth Doran. Banner symbols once forbidden. They sent a signal toward the human fleet. Not words, not weapons, just a single phrase. We remember. Inside the Earthborn command vessel, Adira Lorne read the message. She smiled. We are not alone. The galaxy was shifting. One planet at a time. One race at a time. And some didn't like it. The Jarkin Syndicate shadow rulers of 10 systems called an emergency. Summit. Their faces were hidden by masks. Their voices filtered by static. But their fear was real. The humans are dangerous. One hissed. They didn't fire a shot, said another, and still made empires kneel. They forgive, said the first. Forgiveness is a weapon, snapped the third. Do we fight? A long silence. Then the leader spoke. No, we wait. We let others choose. We survive. On the neutral planet of Tamara, where scholars studied the past, a grand ceremony took place. They unveiled an ancient human artifact buried for centuries. A black flag with silver stars, the symbol of the Earthborn Pact. Thousands gathered in silence. A Tamaran elder spoke through ancient voice echo. They tried to forget the humans, but the stars did not forget. Vila watched the broadcast from Zareth. His eyes glistened. He turned to Threx. Truth spreads faster than fire. Threx nodded, and it burns deeper. Back in orbit, the human fleet began to shift. Not to invade, to spread. They divided into groups, each heading to a different region of the galaxy. Not to conquer, but to witness. To remind, to let every planet know Earth had returned, and Earth was watching. In the far reaches of the Vano quadrant, a small moon flickered to life. It had been dark for centuries, dead, but now it glowed blue. A hidden human colony revealed. A place Earth had rebuilt in silence. The signal from that moon reached every channel. A child's voice spoke in basic. We are from Earth. We are not myths. We are here, on dozens of planets. That message was played in markets, in temples, in war rooms, and in hearts. Many remembered, some resisted, a few plotted, but most listened. On a trade hub called Vero's Station, a Dikari merchant whispered to a customer, "My grandfather was saved by humans during the Singularity War." The customer leaned closer. "Then why do we pretend they never existed?" The merchant looked up at the stars. "We don't need to pretend anymore." In hidden places, the truth dug deeper. Old files were reopened, buried messages decoded. The more people searched, the more they found the same thing. Humanity had once united the stars, and it had been betrayed, a truth too heavy to deny. Back on Zareth Prime, Vila stood before a newly built structure. Not a statue, not a weapon, a school, the first Earth history academy. Children ran through its halls, some human, some alien, all learning the same thing, the truth. Vila turned to Threx. "The past enslaved us." Threx nodded. "And now the truth is setting others free." High above them, a human scout ship hovered quietly, its lights soft, its signal steady. Not a threat, but a promise, one that said, "We will not rule you, we will not destroy you, but you will remember us." Adira stood at the center of her command bridge. Screens surrounded her, showing each region, each movement, each world beginning to wake up. Her officer turned to her. More planets joining the Unity Accord. "Ma'am." She smiled gently. "Good." Another officer spoke. "The Syndicate is still watching. No movement yet." Adira's eyes narrowed. "They will wait. But when the stars shift, even shadows must move." And the stars were shifting now, not by war, but by truth. And truth was Earth's strongest weapon. Earth's return had changed the galaxy, not with weapons, not with force, but with memory. Worlds, once silent, had begun to speak again. Old truths, buried for centuries, now stood tall in every corner of the stars. Trade stations showed Earth symbols. Children learned human history. Entire races wore white robes in tribute. But deep in the void, where stars didn't shine, something else stirred. Something older than Earth, and far more dangerous inside a dark nebula beyond known space. 12 warships floated like shadows. Their hulls were jagged, rust, black, silent. No signals, no lights. At their center was a massive ship 20 times the size of any Earthborn vessel. Its name was burned across its side in ancient runes. Kavrax Eternal. Inside, the High Lord of the Forgotten Ones opened his eyes. They were silver dot, cold dot, and angry. A servant knelt before him. The humans have returned. My lord. The High Lord's voice was dry as dust. I see them. They've begun uniting the galaxy. Peace spreads. The High Lord stood. He wore armor made from broken worlds. Peace is weakness, he said. Memory is poison. The servant looked up carefully. Their message grows stronger every day. The High Lord stepped forward. Then it's time to silence it. He raised his hand. A dark sphere floated from his palm. Inside it, a scream echoed. A planet scream. This time, we won't erase them. We'll make them scream forever. Elsewhere, on the planet Viros, humans and aliens worked side by side. A unity beacon was being built. It would broadcast peace, memory, and Earth's truth across 5 sectors. Villar stood among the crowd, helping young Zereth students stack crystal bricks. Threx arrived by shuttle and removed his gloves. You're getting good at this peace stuff. Vila smiled. It's easier when you're not afraid. Suddenly, the sky flickered. The unity beacon lights dimmed. People looked up. A single black dot appeared in the sky. A ship, but not Earthborn. Not Zareth. Something else. Dark. Twisted. It didn't send a message. It just hovered. Waiting. Adira. Lorne was informed. Within minutes, her officers stared at the scans. That's not one of ours. It's not from any known alliance. Adira narrowed her eyes. It's from the dark zones. Scan it. No data returned. She gave the order. Send a ship to intercept. A small human scout cruiser approached the unknown vessel. It sent greetings. No reply. Then without warning, the dark ship opened. A blast of invisible energy struck the cruiser. No explosion, just a flash of silence. Then, nothing. The cruiser was gone. Adira stood from her command seat. This is no accident. Send a message to all Unity systems. Her voice echoed across galaxies. We are not alone in this memory, and something wants to erase it again. On Zareth Prime, panic began to grow. Vila met with Threx in the council chambers. The Forgotten Ones are real, Vila whispered. They were only legend. Threx said Vela. I shook his head. Just like humans were. Across the Unity planets, fear began to rise. People looked at the stars, not with hope, but with caution. The Forgotten Ones had returned, not to speak, not to remember, but to destroy. Inside the Kavrax Eternal, the High Lord watched the fear spread. He smiled for the first time in centuries. They forgot us too, he said softly. But we are the final memory. His fleet began to move. No lights, no warnings, just hunger. Adira met with her commanders. We spent years preparing to return, she said, but we never prepared to defend. Then what do? One asked. Adira stood tall. We adapt. We remind the galaxy that peace is not weakness, it is strength. Threx joined the call. You won against empires without firing a single shot. Can you win against monsters? Adira's eyes turned cold. If we must, we will remind them of something else. What? Vila asked. She whispered. What happens when Earth stops being silent? The next day, Earth's fleets began to change formation. Defensive grids activated. Old warships, once hidden, were pulled from the dark, from Saturn's shadow, from Neptune's moons, from Mars. Underground rings, thousands of human ships aligned, across Unity space. They didn't attack, they waited, just like before. But this time, the silence didn't feel like peace, it felt like a loaded weapon. In orbit above Viros, a message was transmitted in all languages. Earth does not seek war, but we are not unarmed. The Kavrax fleet paused for the first time. They watched, measured, and then they laughed. The High Lord whispered to the stars, "Show me your strength, Earthborn, and I will show you oblivion." In the distance, near the edges of the map, a small Unity outpost vanished. No warning. No trace. The Forgotten Ones had made their move, and now the galaxy would face a new war, one not of memory, but of survival. And at the center of it all stood Earth. Not as a myth. Not as a ghost, but as a flame that refused to die. The stars were quiet, but the galaxy was not. Worlds buzzed with panic. Systems screamed for help. The Forgotten Ones had arrived, and they were not a myth anymore. One by one, Unity outposts vanished. No explosions, no signals, just gone. Adira Lorne stood in the center of Earth's command ship. Her face was calm. Her voice was not. They've erased 3 border colonies. Villa stood beside her, his hands shaking. How are they doing it? We don't know. Threats appeared on the screen. We lost to scout squadrons trying to get close. Our scans bounce back like mirrors. Adira nodded once. They hide in silence, but we invented it. She walked toward the war map. Dozens of red dots blinked each, marked a system Earth could lose. Not because of invasion, but because of fear. She touched one blinking red dot. Virell. Station. It was next. We make our stand there, she said. Vila looked at her. Why Virell? It's not the strongest, not the biggest. She smiled. But it's the loudest. Virell Station was a unity trade hub. Ships from 40 species passed through daily. Now it was half empty. The other half refused to leave. Earth will protect us, said the merchant leader, a tall 4-eyed Kalari. Others disagreed. They couldn't stop the Forgotten Ones before. They won't now. Still, they stayed, not because they believed in Earth's power, but because they believed in Earth's memory. Adira's fleet arrived 2 hours later. 10,000 ships, different shapes, different sizes, all silent. No banners, no threats, just black metal, reflecting the dying sun. The High Lord of the Forgotten Ones watched from afar. His ships floated like vultures in the void. They gather, he said. They think they can stop what's already dead. His second-in-command stepped forward. Shall we strike now? The High Lord closed his eyes. No, we let them speak first. Inside Virell Station, Adira stood before a crowd of thousands. Alien children sat on their parents' shoulders. Old soldiers stood with medals, worn down by time. Merchants. Farmers. Healers. They all looked at her. Adira raised her voice. We came, in silence, to remind the galaxy of truth. But silence is not surrender. She raised her hand. The station's central screen flickered. An image appeared. The Earth. Blue. Whole. Alive. She spoke again. This is what they tried to erase. This is what they fear. And then, the screen changed again. Old footage played. Earth. Soldiers fighting shoulder to shoulder with Doran warriors. Human doctors healing alien refugees. Earthborn. Ships sacrificing themselves to protect smaller fleets. The crowd grew quiet. Adira's voice lowered. They didn't destroy us. They just made us wait. A small Kalari child raised a hand. Will they come here? Adira knelt down and nodded gently. Yes. The girl's voice was soft. Will you stop them? Adira smiled. Earth doesn't run. An alarm blared. The Forgotten Fleet had entered the outer rim. They moved like shadows through the void. No energy trails. No visible weapons. But they were close. Threk sent his message. They're 20 minutes out. Adira turned to her officers. No speeches. No broadcasts. Just send one signal. A white pulse shot from the Earthborn command ship. It reached every Unity planet. One phrase. We stand here. The High Lord laughed when he saw it. They want us to come. He turned to his fleet. Then let us answer. The dark ships surged. Forward. Silent. Fast. Deadly. Virell's skies darkened. The sun disappeared behind them. Inside the station, people began to pray, hold hands, cry, but they did not run. They remembered Earth's silence, and now they would see its fire. Adira stepped onto the bridge. All units prepare, shields ready. Do not fire unless I say. Villar gripped the railing. Are you sure? She didn't answer. She just stared into the black dot, waiting. The first wave arrived. 100 forgotten ships surrounded the station. Still no attack. Then one of them opened. A beam of black energy shot toward the outer ring. It hit a Unity defense turret. It didn't explode. It melted like ice in sunlight. Gone in seconds. Shields up. Adira shouted. A humming wall of white light formed around the station. Another beam struck. It bounced off. Another came. Blocked. The High Lord narrowed his eyes. They've learned. He raised his hand. Then we test deeper. A dark storm surged from his flagship. Not just energy. Memory. Voices. Screams. Pain. Everyone on Virell heard it. The sound of erased planets, of dying stars, of final breaths. Children screamed. Adults dropped to their knees. Even Vila shook. What is this? He gasped. Adira closed her eyes. They weaponized forgetting. The station shook. Systems failed. Lights flickered. But then Earth responded. The human ships. began to pulse, not with weapons, but with music, ancient songs, rhythms of earth, sounds of oceans, of forests, of laughter, of mothers, whispering to children, and suddenly memory fought back. Inside the station, people rose again. They held each other, they chanted, and in every language, they said the same thing. We remember. Adira opened her eyes. Now thousands of Earthborn ships activated, not to fire but to shield. They formed a wall around Virel. Each ship became a piece of armor. The Forgotten Ones attacked, blades of shadow, bolts of silence, but Earth didn't break. For every ship that fell, 2 more took its place, and then Adira gave the final order. Speak. Human ships opened their cores. Released ancient data. Memory turned into light. Light turned into fire. Not destruction, but truth. It hit the Forgotten Fleet like a wave. Their ships began to slow. Some stopped moving. Some cracked. The High Lord screamed. What is this? Adira's voice echoed into the void. You fed on lies. We are the truth. The stars burned white. The shadow was pulled back, and the Forgotten Ones, they screamed, for the first time in 1,000 years. They screamed and fled. Silence returned, but it was not the same. It was proud. Virel Station still stood, battered but whole. People flooded the halls, cheering. The child from earlier hugged her. Mother, they didn't run, she said. Her mother smiled. No, they never do. Adira stood on the bridge, sweat on her brow. Her voice soft. It's not over. Threx called in. You beat them. No, she replied. We reminded them. Back on the Kavraxi Eternal, the High Lord limped across the ruined bridge. His officers were dead. His voice cracked. They used memory as a weapon. He stared into space and whispered, they are not the same humans we erased. They are something worse. The next day, Earth sent a new message to the galaxy. It played only once, a calm voice, a clear truth. We are not gods. We are not saviors, but we are still here. And if you try to erase us again, we will remind you why the galaxy feared us, not for our fire, but for our silence. The war was not won by weapons, it was not won by armies, it was won by memory. Virel Station stood as proof. The stars around it still flickered with the aftershock of the battle, but the Forgotten Ones were gone. For now, Adira Lorne stood in silence. At the edge of the viewing deck, below her, hundreds of ships floated in formation. Some Earthborn, some Zareth, some Doran, some from species once enemies, now allies. The galaxy had changed, but the change was fragile. One mistake, one fear, could break it all. Velar walked in behind her. He was quiet. He always was when history was being made. Adira spoke first. Is the message ready? Vila nodded. Broadcast is scheduled for the next cycle. Every planet, every ship, every system will hear it. Adira didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, we stood silent for too long. Vila looked out at the stars, and when you spoke, the galaxy remembered. Adira turned to him. Now they must choose. Across the galaxy, the memory of Virel spread like fire. Unity worlds rebuilt faster than ever. Statues of Earthborn heroes were raised in alien cities. Old songs returned to markets. Children painted Earth's blue oceans on school walls. Even Zareth Prime had changed. Kale was gone, vanished into history, and in his place stood a new banner. White, clean. It showed Earth's symbols side by side with Zareth's. Threx led the Unity Guard. Now he wore no armor. Only robes of memory. He addressed his people from the Palace of Stars. We forgot. We lied. We fell. He lifted his hand. But Earth did not punish us. They reminded us. He looked into the crowd. Now we must remind others. The people cheered, but fear still lived in shadows, because the Forgotten Ones were not defeated, only broken somewhere deep in the dark zones. They watched. They rebuilt. And they waited, waiting for the galaxy to forget. Again. Waiting for silence. Inside the Earthborn flagship, Adira sat in a small room. No screens. No crew, only a chair and a single recording device. She took a deep breath and began to speak, not as a general, not as a warrior, but as a human. Her message went live. 2 hours later, every planet received it, every station. Every ship, even those who once hid from Earth's name. Adira appeared in simple clothing, no armor, no weapons, just her voice. To every being across the stars, we have returned, not to rule, not to conquer, not to erase, but to remember. She paused. The silence after her words felt heavy, real. 500 years ago, we were betrayed. Earth was attacked, broken and forgotten. But we did not die. We rebuilt in silence. And now, we speak. The screen showed images, not of war, but of peace. Humans shaking hands with Zareth elders, children of different species, learning together. Wounded soldiers being healed side by side. Adira's voice continued. We showed you that silence is not weakness, that peace is not surrender, that memory is power. Then her voice changed, a little firmer. But the forgotten ones have returned. They do not want truth, they want fear. And if we let go of what we've rebuilt, the I will take everything. Another pause. Then, the heart of her message. We offer you a choice. You can forget again, or you can rise with us. Not under earth, but beside earth. Not as servants, but as guardians of memory, of peace, of each other. The screen faded. Just one phrase remained. The silence is over. The galaxy reacted in waves. Some cheered, some cried, some doubted, but no one ignored it. In the Doran clans, warriors lit sky fires in every city. Their warlords chanted, "We remember." On the moons of Keller, entire cities changed their flags. Overnight, in the scholar temples of Tamara, the ancient texts were unsealed. They declared Earth's return as the start of the bright cycle. Even old enemies spoke. A Vortha leader addressed his people. For centuries, we were taught that Earth was fire. He looked toward the stars. They were wrong. Earth is the light that comes after. But not all agreed. On the edge of syndicate space, masked leaders gathered. They watched the message in silence. One whispered, "She speaks of peace." Another added, "But peace is not profit." A third asked, "Do we fight?" The leader stood slowly. "No, we wait, we watch. And if memory becomes a weapon again, we strike." Meanwhile, the Unity Guard discovered something strange. A planet, UNMAPPED. Orbiting a dead star. But it wasn't empty. Beneath the surface, they found ruins, signs of war, signs of Earth. Villa was called to inspect. He walked through the broken halls, his heart pounding. Symbols on the walls matched Earthborn designs, but older, much older. In the center chamber, he found a statue. It showed a human holding the hand of an alien child. Below it, one sentence carved in hundreds of languages. Before the silence, we built hope. Vila fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. We were here before the war. He called Adira. We've been rebuilding longer than we thought. She answered, then our roots are deeper than their lies. That discovery shook the galaxy again. Earth had not just survived, it had been everywhere once, and now it would be again. But this time, not as conquerors, that is partners. Within weeks, the Galactic Memory Accord was signed. Hundreds of systems joined. Zare.Dor-N.T, single quotes Mara. Even some from the Vorthar Dominion. They agreed on three things. No history would be erased again. No species would be forgotten. And if any power rose to silence others, the galaxy would stand together. Villa gave the closing speech at the signing. He stood before the memory flame. It burned blue, a gift from Earth. He spoke simply. Memory once tore us apart, but now it binds us. He looked at the crowd. Let no one be forgotten again. High above, in deep space, Adira stood at the window of her ship. She watched as dozens of Unity vessels flew side by side. No borders, no ranks. No ranks. Just peace. Her officer approached. Orders, ma'am. Adira smiled softly. Keep watching, keep listening. And when the silence returns, she turned away. We will answer again. On Earth, the skies were quiet. Children played. Cities glowed. Forests grew. For the first time in centuries, Earth was at peace. But deep underground, in a sealed room, a beacon pulsed. It was old, far older than anyone knew. It sent one message, on a loop, into deep space. We are still here. We still remember, and far beyond the stars. Something listened, something ancient, something that had waited longer than even the forgotten ones. But for now, it remained silent, because it knew, when Earth speaks again the galaxy listens. The end.